Welcome back to the Angela DeJoseph Show. We are having an amazing show. Joining me is a writer, producer, director. He's an Emmy Award winner. He's also the winner of several NAACP Theater Awards. He's done a web festival, web series. He now has a new sitcom. Welcome to the show, Michael Ajakwe. Hello, Michael.
Thank you, Angela. Congratulations on the show, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for asking me to be a guest. This is great.
Thank you for being here. Well, I have to tell people a little history. Michael and I met in the Bill Cosby writing program at USC. We were both in that. Now, he was smart because he took sitcom writing. Now, I was in the film writing. All the sitcom people went off and made money. All the film people, we're still waiting to get our screenplays made. Right? Because you got a job right away. You started working on Martin's show, which was great.
Yeah, Martin was my first job. The last 2 seasons of the show was a great experience. Probably the best job I ever had outside of my own show.
It looked like a lot of fun, too.
It was. It was a lot of fun. I used to drive to work, and I used to drive on the way to Universal saying, God, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. You know. Mm-hmm. But it was a great experience.
And then you got a chance to wrote on other sitcoms, too.
Yeah, I wrote on Sister. I wrote on Moesha, The Parkers, Soul Food, Between Brothers, Meg DeLoach, who was in our class as well, who created Eve, which was the most special job I've ever had, working for a close friend on a great comedy
That's
like
what I'm
Eve.
saying. See, Meg got a show, you got shows, we're all still waiting. But anyway, so you kept working.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to keep working. Bentley Evans, who hired me to write on Martin, created a sitcom about 4 years ago called Love That Girl, and asked me to help out. He and his sister Stacy Evans is also a writer producer, and we did 4 episodes in Burbank in a rented warehouse, really. And I was really fascinated by what Bentley put together. Sold the show to TV One. The show got on the air. It's now on its 33rd episode. They've done 32. Going to do 65.
And what was great about Love That Girl is that they actually created the show themselves. They didn't go to a network, a production company. They did it themselves. They made it themselves and then sold it.
Yes.
Which is risky to put up, get your own money, get your own funding, and then put yourself out there. And then all your friends came that are writers and helped out on those episodes too.
Exactly. What Bentley did was really incredible, and it inspired me. And from the time I worked on the show back in 2009, in my head, the seed was planted. Hey, if Bentley can do it, maybe I can do it. And so I used that as almost like college. Those 3 years I worked on that show, and T.D. Jakes did a show that never aired like that as well that I worked on. And all of this was food. It was food for me for what prepared me for Basketball Wife, my own project.
Yeah, we're going to talk about his own project in a minute, but I want to talk about your plays because you started off writing plays. And you work with some of the people that are now stars. I mean, Hill Harper, Niecy Nash, some of these people started off. He gave them their Hollywood start in his plays. But tell us about some of your experience as a playwright and how that was different than writing for television.
Well, I always say theater changed my life because I was a struggling TV writer, screenwriter, and I couldn't get any love at all. I thought something was wrong with me. I thought I was cursed. I really did. I thought somehow I must have done something because I couldn't get a break. And then theater was introduced to me thanks to Daniel Tabor. I'll give him credit. Former mayor of Inglewood, who went to my high school. I knew him in high school.
Yeah, we know Danny Tabor.
Yeah, Danny Tabor. Yeah. When I was a kid in high school, Danny worked at the school. He graduated. He's 10 years older than me. Okay. But Danny's the one that gave me a shot to do a play at the Inglewood Playhouse. And I took a screenplay that I had written and I rewrote it as a play. I just threw out all the exteriors. And that play, which Hill Harper was in, Niecy Nash was actually my stage manager and became an actress in that show. Okay. Gary Sturgis was also in that show after Hill left. That play went up running for 8 months, and it really...
8 months is a long run.
It's a long run. We ran for, all of 1993.
Is that in the park?
In the park, yeah. We were at Rogers Park, and then we went to the Wilshire Ebell, then Grand Theater, then back to the Wilshire Ebell. And it was a great experience. Howard Love was my partner, good buddy of mine from childhood. We produced it together. He starred in the show. And doing for self, that was the first time when I realized that I didn't need someone else to empower me. That was my first experience on hey, I can do this myself. That was the seed. And that has kind of been, as you know, that has kind of been the impetus for everything I've done since then, which is how can I do this without somebody else's money or somebody else's help?
And that's the beauty of, I think, community theater, too, is that you can write your play, mount your play, and you don't have to wait for somebody to green light you. But let's talk a little bit about how you came up with the idea for LA Web Fest, which has turned into this big international festival like the Cannes Film Festival for web series here in Los Angeles. How did you come up with that? And first of all, maybe I should first ask you, so who is it that first told you about the internet?
She did. I didn't know anything about the internet or email or cyber people until, but knowing her, Angela is the one that schooled me on all that.
I'm still waiting for the royalty check.
But LA Web Fest came about. I did a web series in 2009. The same year we did Love That Girl, I did a web series. I had heard about web series. I spent a whole year just reading and studying web series. I didn't write anything. I just watched a bunch of web series until because it's not TV and it's not theater and it's not film. It's different. It's much shorter, but the same rules apply. And I just wasn't trained. None of us are trained on how to do that.
Right.
And so after about a year of just watching shows, I took a stab and did my own called Who. I shot it at my house when I was living in Sherman Oaks. I shot everything at my house, and again, doing for self. I thought it was a great experience, and I kept saying, wow, this would be fun. Other people are doing shows. Wouldn't it be great if we all came together and screened our shows, not on our laptops, but on a big screen like they do movies and TV shows and plays, and made like an evening out of it. And I kept saying, I was waiting for a whole year. All of 2009, I was waiting for someone to do it. No one did it, so my New Year's resolution 2010 was to, well, I know of a theater, Stage 52, that has a big screen, 100 seats. You know, they say, start where you are. So I said, let me start there. I talked to Thomas Duckett. He said, Mike, whatever you want to do, your family here. And that's how it started, in a small theater with, and the response, I did it with 8 weeks of prep, was incredible. We had 100 submissions. We showed 50 web series, and just the enthusiasm. It was just in this little community theater on Washington Boulevard and near Hauser, and that's when I knew. I mean, people from all over the country, and Canada was our only international. We had one from Canada. That was 2010, and now, of course, it's exploded. We screened 262 shows this past March, and we're now at the Radisson LAX Hotel. We take up the whole second floor, and we have 19 different countries that have been in the festival in the last 3 years, and 38 states.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
And we've screened over 700 shows.
But what fascinated me about the Web Festival was the quality of I mean, these were great productions. You had comedy, you had drama, you had talk shows, you had sitcoms, you had a little bit of everything. But the quality of the work was so good.
Well, now, it's true. I can't take the credit because I didn't make all the shows. But
you watch all of them.
I do watch. We watch everything. I watch every episode of everything. But what's being done? What happens in Hollywood? Hollywood is like it's like a club, and Hollywood believes that if they haven't discovered you, that you're nothing, that you must not be any good if they don't know who you are. But the problem is they don't look everywhere, and so you have wonderful plays being produced and web series that people don't know of, that Hollywood doesn't know of, but the work is still being done, and festivals give those works a chance to be seen.
Well, we're going to take a break right here. We are going to take a little bitty break. We'll be back, but we're going to talk about the new sitcom that Michael Ajakwe has created, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Hollywood and writing. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the Angela DeJoseph Show, and we're having a conversation with writer, producer, director Michael Ajakwe. We're talking about his productions, and we're going to talk a little bit about writing. So, so Michael, you started off wanting to be a writer. What age?
I was 12.
At 12. And what was the first thing you wrote?
I wrote a little sci-fi piece. It's somewhere. My mother saved it. It was a little sci-fi piece. It wasn't very good, but I thought it was good. And a friend of mine illustrated it. We were trying to be comic book. I was inspired by comic books, reading Archie comics, DC comics. Me and my friend Jody, who I grew up with, he was a writer and an illustrator. I would write, he would illustrate, and that made me dream and think about stories.
Now, you're like me. You're first generation, right?
Yes, my parents are from Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
West Africa. I was born in Los Angeles and grew up here. I also lived in Nigeria as a teenager for almost 3 years. Went to high school, graduated from high school there. I went to high school here at Morningside, and I went to high school in Nigeria. So I have 2 high school diplomas.
Oh.
It's kind of weird because they graduated early back in the day. You get out in the 11th grade. 12th grade was optional, so I opted not to go to 12th grade. Came back here and graduated with my class I was a freshman with.
You know, my family's West Indian from Trinidad, and I know the African families are similar. When they come to this country, they want you to go to school, they want you to study, and they want you to be a doctor. They're not thinking about having you become a writer. So, did you have any of that with your parents when you said, "I want to be a writer"?
Yes, definitely. Because my brother's a doctor. One of my youngest brother's a doctor. My sister is a biochemistry major. She's a principal in Rhode Island. My other brother's in business. My brother Bobby. And I was the oddball, kind of. Even though Bobby was into music, too. But I was the oddball, and then I was into the arts. But I wanted to be a lawyer, also. Law was my fallback.
Okay.
But writing was my passion, and has been since I was about 14 years old.
And so you followed your passion.
Followed my passion. I got very blessed. I did an internship my senior year in college at the University of Redlands. I interned on the show Cheers. The guys who created Cheers
Wait,
went
that
to
little show, Cheers?
the little show called Cheers that became a classic sitcom. Those guys, Glenn and Les Charles, at the behest of my advisor, the sci-fi writer Bruce McAllister, who was my mentor, was my writing mentor, they allowed me to do an internship on the show. I was supposed to be there for a month, and I wound up staying the whole 7 months. I was driving from Redlands to L.A., 90 miles each way, twice a week for 7 months for free. And because I just loved it when I saw what these guys were doing. I didn't know what a comedy writer was. I didn't know they paid people to write and come up with these stories, and it really inspired me. And I said, I want to do this. I was 20 years old. I said, I want to do this.
Now, some people want to be writers, but they give up. They stop. They don't because they get rejection letters and they say, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. So tell us a little bit about you and like the process and when you finally got the breakthrough. Like how many spec scripts did you have to write? Did you get rejection letters?
I have a stack of I got a stack about this big, about 300 rejections.
Oh
probably
my
more.
gosh, really?
Because I've been trying to get published. Before that, I was, publishing poetry.
So your feelings didn't get hurt. You just put them aside.
No, I have a thick skin. We
Okay,
have to, especially
okay.
being, who we
Well,
are.
it's obviously it worked.
Yeah, but I always but then you get little kernels of success. I mean, I've been writing professionally since I was 17. I was published when I was 17 years old. A poem I wrote that I've never seen. I got paid $10 for something I wrote. But all the little successes help you. But in Hollywood especially, it's very difficult because you don't see a lot of people of color with opportunities to write and create. Very few Shonda Rhimes. As great as she is, she's got all these shows, but where's the next Shonda Rhimes? How come there's just Shonda Rhimes? Why is there only one? If there's one Shonda Rhimes, wouldn't you think there might be more Shonda Rhimes? So
I'm sure that there are.
Yeah, I'm sure they are, but you have to get the opportunity. So a lot of people quit because they don't get signs that, hey, this is working. And so they start thinking, then you have your family, your friends, and if you're in a relationship, people saying, you're not, what are you doing? You're wasting time. We got bills. I want a bigger house. I want a nice car. And people get the pressure, and people still are human beings. And it's really hard to tune all that out. And then your parents, my parents were very concerned for years.
Like, when are you going to start making some money?
We're going to start making some money. But to their credit, my mother and father invested in my first play. And when they saw those people in the theater and paying money to go in and laughing, they were really educated because they just didn't know coming from a third world country. But I've just always been very stubborn, and I've always believed that I can do this. And it's just, I've always been an I'll show you kind of person. And I don't say anything. I'll just work hard to use the negativity. Some people, the negativity wears them down, but negativity fuels me. And then I'm determined to show you that My last name actually is Ajakwe, is a Nigerian proverb, Igbo proverb, and the meaning of Ajakwe is people will underestimate your potential, but in the end they will know the truth. So my
Wow.
name kind of
Appropriate.
is appropriate, definitely, because that's how I operate.
But for someone who wants to break into the writing business, should they start writing a those spec scripts? Should they try to get into one of the programs? Because now the Cosby program is over. We were in the first class. Lasted almost
Yes,
20
we were.
years.
18
Bill
years.
Cosby paid for us to go to SC, study screenwriting. It was a beautiful thing. But there are other programs. I know Warner has a program.
Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Fox,
Okay.
Disney. There are a lot of programs. Back in the day, there was really just Warner Brothers and Disney. Eddie Murphy was one of the people that started the Disney program for black writers. The Warner program was also started for black writers, but eventually we became the minorities in all those programs.
Oh, right.
And again, my feeling is that the programs are great. I was in the Warner program myself, but that's not what got me a job. My hustle got me a job. I don't
Okay.
care what program. Those programs can cripple you because then once again you're depending on somebody else to empower you. But long before there were any programs, people were just getting jobs through writing scripts and making connections and getting read and finding an agent. And you have to have the attitude, if you want to be in this business, that nobody's going to help you. So if nobody helps you, do you still want to do it? Do you still want to be in this business? If you do, then maybe you have a shot. But because it's a hard business. I mean, there's the premieres and there's the fun and there's the money when you're working. But most of it is work. It's thankless. It's staying up late at night,
Yeah.
writing and trying to create something and trying to get people to listen and to receive you and give you a break, give you an opportunity. Because I don't care who you are, white, black, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, without opportunity, you have nothing. You're just another person with potential.
But also,
Most of it is
everybody
work.
thinks they can write. I find that everybody thinks they can write, but there's a craft. I mean, you have to have a certain amount of talent, but then you also have to learn the craft of writing, and it's a process of writing and rewriting. And I know you told me that you wrote how many spec scripts before you ever got a job?
TV spec scripts, I probably wrote about 30.
Oh my God.
Features, I've probably written 35. I've done a lot of writing. But all that writing is, and years too. I mean, I was told when I worked on Cheers, I had a mentor, Sherry, one of the producers mentored me, Sherry Steinkelner, and she read something I wrote and said, you can make it. I think you can do this. I was offered a job as a writer for a newspaper, Riverside Press Enterprise, in Hemet. I had won this contest, and they offered me a job to be a newspaper writer. I had written for them in college on the weekends for sports writing, and so I have like several careers in writing, like 7 different careers. And she said, "Don't take that job. Come to L.A. You can do this. I know. We feel you can make it." Now she said it'd probably take you about 2-3 years. It took me 8 years. It took me years. But all those years you spend honing your craft, like you said, you don't spend it being bitter and angry and not working. You actually spend it. You have to find ways to motivate yourself to write something else and write something else. Take another class. Try to, become stronger, because you're competing not just with your classmates or your city. You're competing with the whole country, with people from all over the world who want it just as bad as you. If you're up till 2 in the morning, I bet you somebody in another part of town, another part of the world, they're up till 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Trying to do what you're trying to do. So, I mean, for me, it was, I know I'm very blessed, very fortunate, and I don't take it for granted at all. I know this is very few people get to do what they love for a living, and I've been blessed to be able to do that, for the last 18 years.
Now the business has changed
Yes.
from when you first started, and there were all those sitcoms. I mean, the girlfriends. I mean, remember when there was that one night when you could just watch all the
Black was in.
Black
Monday Night Groove on UPN.
And I mean, there was even a time when the Cosby Show was the #1 show.
Yes.
But now it's reality TV, and there just doesn't seem to be the opportunities for writers that were there. So, which leads us up to, how did you come up with the idea to create your own sitcom?
Well, yeah, reality. We thought reality was a little fad, but reality's turned out to be a trend, and it's just gotten stronger. We thought it was going to die. Every time you think it's dead, it's like the Terminator. Reality pops up and keeps moving, and that's also created opportunities for a lot of people and people of color, producers and stuff as well. And I'm not hating on reality, but what happened was reality started taking up space on the schedule, and so there are fewer sitcoms. Well, just like in jobs, whenever you got to start cutting shows, the first to go are the shows of color. So a lot of our shows got canceled, and unfortunately, when that happened, a lot of black writers were out of work. Even though we're all writing, we all learn how to write the same way. The process of being in the writer's room and pitching, it's no different no matter what color you are. It's the same process. In fact, most of our teachers, people that taught us how to do it, are Caucasian people who work on black shows as well. But what happens is there's a perception that if you're not white, you can't write for anything except a show with minorities on it, which is not true. But that is the reality. So you found all these black writers out of work, and thanks to Tyler Perry, who some people knock. I have issues with Tyler Perry myself when it comes to how he treats writers, but in terms of what the opportunities, the doors he's opened, I have nothing but praise for him, because he's the one that kicked this door open to where Ice Cube and Ali LeRoy were able to do Are We There Yet? Their movie that became a sitcom that did 100 episodes, that Bentley Evans was able to do Love That Girl. Byron Allen is now doing Mr. Box Office and First Family. And I'm now doing my show Basketball Wife, by finding a way to get around this system, this age-old system that says that if you're not white, get back. We don't want to see you.
Well, the sad part of that is that you have so many talented, very talented writers who never get an opportunity, like you said, to work on, other shows. But let's talk a little bit about your web series, Who, that you created. How did you come up with the idea about Who, and tell us a little bit about the setup of that story?
Well, Who is about two beautiful black women who get together every day and talk about people. That's from observation.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, very familiar. Yeah, we don't know any people that do that. And I was going to do it in a cafe like a Starbucks, but then I thought about permits, and I'm on someone else's time because I'm at and then you're dealing with continuity with people in the street. And I was in Sherman Oaks, had a really nice place out there, and I said, well, what if one of them had a lot of money and the other one came over her house every day, and she had a servant, and they just had it right there at the house, and that way, and we just used every inch of my house in the valley when I was there, and shot it. And because web series have to be short, it has to be a self-contained story that's short. And that was something that could be done a couple of minutes, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And that's why I came up with it. And after watching so many shows online for 1 year, I spent a whole year just watching, studying, because there are no books on web series. There weren't at that time. So the best way to learn is to watch. And so even though I had all this experience as a writer, I didn't have experience writing this. And so I wrote them, and I shot 3, and I liked what I saw, and I shot 3 more. Then I shot another 6 for a whole full season. All the while thinking the same way we do with publishing, with television, with film, with the song even, hey, maybe this could be adaptable to one of my other skill sets, which is television or screenwriting. And so when I worked with Bentley Evans and Stacey Evans on Love That Girl, I started thinking, well, the seeds have been planted. How can I take control of my career and come up with a sitcom of my own? And I thought, well, what if I adapted Who into a comedy? Because one of the characters, she's married to a basketball player who's never home. You never see the guy in the sitcom. You only see the 2 best friends and the servant.
Right.
You don't see anybody else but 3 people. And so again, in adaptation, you expand and you kind of adapt the show for the TV world, which is, okay, let's see the husband, let's see the mother-in-law, let's see their house, let's see other parts of her life and tell it from her point of view. It's told from her point of view. A beautiful black woman from the neighborhood, a regular girl who's in an irregular situation. She's married to a basketball star, on the local team, and she brings her best friend as their accountant to make sure they don't run out of money, and her uncle is their chef to make sure they eat well so they can enjoy the money when the career is over. And they live in a gated community like what is that, Beverly Park, where Denzel and Barry Bonds and Martin and those guys live, Eddie Murphy.
Which is nice too, also to be able to see upscale African Americans on television. That's something that we appreciate that imagery.
Yeah, they're upscale, but they're still down home. Thank you. They're still down home, and so I wrote the pilot, and then over the course of the 4 years, every time I worked on somebody else's show, I kept saying, man, I got to get on my show. I got to write, And so I eventually wrote 9 episodes myself over the course of just last summer. I wrote 9 episodes. I had written 1. I wrote 8 more, and then I went off to people I knew, friends and family. To my surprise, people were willing to write a check.
And so people invested in you.
People invested in me, family and friends, people that knew my track record, that believed in me. I was able to raise enough money to shoot this. I directed it myself. And I hired, people like, Akeem Smith and Deandra Lyle, up and comers. Akeem was on Single Ladies season 1, and he's been on Teen Wolf, and he's really up and coming, very talented actor. I've worked with him in theater before. Deandra Lyle is a wonderful young actress. Kimberly Dooley, who I found in the Faithful Central Baptist Church repertory at the church play. very talented. Charles Reese, who was in the web series.
Right.
All the people from the web series made it to the TV series. Charles Reese is the only one that kept the same character.
I want to before we have to go. I
Sure.
want to talk about Unsung.
Sure.
That you also wrote a number of those unsungs, which are amazing, and because there's a parallel here. The people that you did the unsung also are in the sitcom.
Yes.
So, the one on Denise Williams is great, Ray Parker Jr., but Sly Stone. Sly Stone. Nobody gets Sly Stone to come out. And he came out and he did an interview with you.
I interviewed him twice, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sly's great. Sly and I are cool. He's a great guy, a lot of fun. And I asked him if he I wanted to have a character in my first episode, someone really that would shock people that you're not expecting to see. And I wanted Mike Tyson, but I didn't know Mike Tyson. He was doing this play, and I thought, well, who do I know that if people saw him, they'd really be shocked to see him? Like, wow, what are you doing here? And I thought, well, Sly Stone. So I called Sly, and they said, well, based on how you treated us during that 1 year we spent doing Unsung, because that took a whole year to put together, I'll do it. And Sly showed up and did it. And he was great.
So, Basketball Wife, you get to see Sly Stone doing a sitcom.
Yeah, Sly Stone is a recurring character. He works in a restaurant in the show. Denise Williams plays a judge. You know how you have all these judges shows? Denise is a singing judge. So that's her hook. All the judges have a hook. And Ray Parker lives in the community and the neighborhood.
And drops by and plays music.
Yeah, he stops by. He, he's like a neighbor in the show. And he also is the music supervisor for the show and a producer on the show. And yeah, so hey, if I didn't do a good job with their biographies, they wouldn't still be talking to me. So I'm happy that they were all happy with how their shows turned out.
Well, that's quite a testimony that you have so many people that have stayed in your family, so to speak, and go from your plays to the sitcom, and now they're working with you. And
Karen White's in the show as well, the singer Karen White, and so is Denise. As I mentioned, Denise Williams, Cindy Heron Bragg, the lead singer
from
of En
Vogue.
Yeah, Cindy's in the show. Judy Pace is in the show. The legendary Judy Pace. Art Evans is in the show. We have a lot of talented people, familiar faces as well as new faces. There's a nice mix. Carla Rodriguez, who's out from Colombia. And so it's going to be a fun sitcom. I really want to bring love back to sitcom. I think that it's missing, especially in black sitcoms, and I want to bring it back. I want to show that you can be funny and still be in love at the same time.
Well, that is wonderful. And on that note, we are so happy to have you on the show, on the Angela Joseph Show here today. Congratulations on all of your successes. We're going to look for Basketball Wives. Thank you, Michael, and for being here today. It has been a wonderful show. You can go to the Angela Joseph Show, our website, ADJ Show on Twitter. Look us up. We're going to have a link over to Michael's website. You can find out what's going to be happening with this new sitcom. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Thursday, 6 p.m. In LA and 9 p.m. in New York. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.